Good evening. I'm John Felton, President and CEO of RiverStone Health, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the 2022 Tree of Lights ceremony. This is one of the most special times of the year for RiverStone Health, where we honor those among us who have left us and who we think about as the years go by. First thing I'd like to do is thank you all for trusting us with your family at the most difficult, vulnerable time of your lives. It's truly an honor and a privilege to serve you and your loved ones during these difficult times. This event is being pre-recorded to allow the best viewing experience for everyone to watch whenever is most convenient for them. We know many of you treasure the programs, the list of names that go with this event. This list is available to you at our website at riverstonehealth.org/lights. This is our 32nd annual Tree of Lights ceremony, supporting our hospice program and honoring our loved ones. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Yellowstone Bank, MTS, Midland Printing, Northwestern Energy, St. Vincent Healthcare, Heights Family Funeral Home and Gallery, and the Cremation and Funeral Gallery. I'd also like to thank RiverStone Health Foundation and all the volunteers of RiverStone Health Foundation and RiverStone Health Hospice. And again, thank you to all of you who have given gifts to support RiverStone Health Hospice. Since we began hospice care in 1980, our philosophy has not wavered. Terminally ill patients referred for our hospice care are accepted regardless of their ability to pay for these services. At the end of life, dignity and compassion are provided to every individual, enhancing the quality of their remaining time. With the support of RiverStone Health's hospice team, family members are able to spend their last days, weeks, and months with their loved one in the comfort of their home or ours. RiverStone Health hospice staff help transform an often difficult journey for our patients, their families and friends, into a time of love, comfort, and peace. Tonight, we light the beautiful spruce tree adorned with thousands of lights in remembrance of all our loved ones. At this time, I'd like to introduce the RiverStone Health hospice staff who will now lead us in the recognition of those who have passed. Mary Abrahams, Corinne Dene, Paula Kildall, Heidi Landine, Sue Vogel, and Tim Warburton.
Thanks, John. Honorees will be read in alphabetical order by last name. Please excuse any mispronunciations. Isabel Abel, Thomas and Phyllis Abrahams, Robert Adams, Mr. and Mrs. Mickey Ahern, Aaron and Delria Aldrett, Mary Aldrett, Evelyn and Buzz Aldrich, Harold and Francis Aldrich, Craig A. Alexander, Doug Alexander, Pat and Grace Allen, Melvin Aman, Bill Anderson, James R. Anderson, June Anderson, May Anderson, Margaret D. Anderson, Mark E. Anderson, Ronald L. Anderson, Marion Andrew, Teddy and Marion Andrew, Ira Dale Andrews, Ira J. Andrews Jr., Arlene Antilla, Richard Bailey, Joyce Baker, Al and Teresa Bolensky, Gary Bolensky, Dee Bowser, Jeanette Barkow, Terry Jean Beckman, Frank L. Beeler, Genevieve C. Beeler, Henrietta Belcher, Steve Belcher, Walter Belcher, Willis Belcher, Harvey Bennett, Darlene A. Berg, Hugh and Janet Berg, Phyllis M. Bergeron,
Vanjie Burmis, Linda Bislanovich, Joan Burr, Alan and Florence Black, Brad Black, John Black, Brent Allen Bloom, Richard P. Bodine, Richard Bowes, Daramus Boschinger, Marcy Bolin, Mary A. Belensky, John P. Bond, Beverly Brayton, Alice Broughton, Frida Breedberg, Jim and Eleanor Brees, Cleo Dick Brewer, Leona Brewer, Clara Brisbane, Mike Brock, Helen Burgess, Kay Vanover Butterfield, Mary B. Campbell, Wes Carson, Janet Miller Carpenter, Jesus Jess Castro, Wayne A. Cacro, Jane Cleveland, James Allen Clevenger, Gary Klein, Jennifer Linville Coburn, Betty Collins, Joy Crowfoot, Robert Crow, William and Norma Kurtelik, Kim Cunningham, Lois J. Curtis, Mark R. Curtis, Bob and Irene Dolman, Lorraine Davy,
Katie Grant Deedy, Bernie Degley, John and Catherine Degenhart, Shirley DeLeo, Garth and Edith Delmonica, Don and Jerry DeVitt, Kurt Lee Dolchek, Dan and Doe Donnelly, Tom Downey, Betty and Tom Driscoll, Tom and Joanne Driscoll, Don and Marlis Duff, Don Dungan, Lee Dungan, Thomas O. Earl, Sandra Edwards, Ken Ide, Chris Eldine, Darla Emmons, Bert E. Emsweiler, Margaret L. Emsweiler, Marge Emter, Russell Emter, Thomas Emter, Renee Enberg, Donna Lee Etchart, Elaine Etchart, Jean Etchart, Nancy Etchart, Wendy Eubank, Edward Farrington, Lois Feldman, Tuffy Feldman, Patricia Fellows, Walter Fellows, Dwayne Felton, Mary Lou Felton, Wesley Federer, Edward Fernandez, Emily Fertig, Margie A. Fitch, Dave Fletcher,
Marvin Fox, Dolores Frocker, Carl Francis, Martha Francis, Clint Frank, Marietta Frank, Glenn French, Everett Frey, Catherine Frey, Mildred Frey, Robert Frey, Mervyn and Millie Fry, Anne Fujiwara, Helen Firthmeyer, Eric Gable, Floyd and Elsie Gable, Hank Gable, Patrick Gannon, Phil Ganson, Clifford Garr, Dorothy Garr, Gary Jeffrey, Val and Frida Jeffrey, Terry
Geisick, Anna Gilchrist, Dolores Gillen, Johnny Glum, Erica Godfrey, Gregory Goodhart, Doug Greenwalt, Terrence R. Gress, Barbara Griffin, Suzanne Gross, Viral and Dorothy Gwynn, Carrie I. Gunderson, Lola Gutierrez, Terry Hahn, Kevin Hadley, Betty J. Hayter, Daphne Hansen.
Herb Hansen, Ralph Hansen, Edward Ed J. Harris, Sheila Harrison, Wanda Harrison, Mary Lou Hatfield, Everett and Lydia Hayworth, Gary Hayworth, Charles R. Hayes, Doris M. Hayes, Sally Jo Page Haney, Dr. Sterling Hayward, Bob and Jackie Heck, Marilyn Hedden, Jim Himbickner, Hilda Heiser, Ray Heiser, Wilma Heiser, Dorothy Dolores Arts, Helmond, Lee Herman, Marjorie Herman, Jim S. Hurt, Clifford Hesser, Gail Hesser Schenk, Rhonda Hesser Woods, Richard Dick Hess, Lou Hicks, Howard Hint, Alan Hoffaber, Irma Hoffaber, Jacob Hoffaber, Linda Hoffman, Roxanne Hogan, Dennis Holmgren, John Holmgren, Gertrude and Leaf Holmland, Frank Holzer, Marilyn Horan, Shane Horgus, Willis and Inez Horning, Janine Hudeberg, Les and Thelma Hudeberg,
Dan Huff, Francis Huff, Aline Huffman, Sandra K. Hull, Eben Huntington, Bud and Jane Hutchinson, Robert Inglis, Tom Inglis, Kirsten Jackson, Randy Jackson, Sherry Jacobson, Josh and Nicole Jeffers, Ardice Jensen Buckler, Olivia Jimison, Alfred D. Johnson, Elise Johnson, Roger C. Jones, Clausine Jordan, David William Jull, Judith Coles Jurist, Dorothy Lee and Jerry Justice, Jim Carls, Gregory J. Carney, Sam Kawano, Robert Bob Keller, Jim and Cheryl Kelly, Robert and Donna Kent, Darlene Kilby, Walter and Gail Kinsfather, Walter, Sonny and Mary Kay Kinsfather, Dorothy and Steve Kirkland, Mildred Clem, Ray Clem, Jo Lou Knoll, Berla Kober, Raymond Cook, Peg Kibbe, Kerwin Kostalecki, Richard Kraft, Daniel and Mary Jane Kramer, Albert Krinsler, Clem Kirkosa, Dolores Kroll, Ronald L. Kroll, Chester and Mary F. Kruger, Dave Cull, Virginia Krager Jellison, Jim Lamb, Jack R. Lambert, Ken Lanning, David Laramere, Richard Laramere, Edward Lawson, Ted Lechner, Artis Lee, John E. Lataski, Carl A. Lataski, Eddie B. Luthold, Roy and Joyce Lind, Rita Lindbaum, Carol Lind, Ethel Locke, Neil Logan, Douglas Logan, Mr. and Mrs. Lowe, Robert Lubbers, Kent Lustig, Jerry A. Lyman, Jill Six Lynch, Jerry and Colleen Lengby, Estelle B. Lyon, Ginger Mays, Alma Wells Mahato, Leslie W. Mahato, Leslie Mahato Jr., Alice Malin, Richard Malin, Vern J. Manley II, Beulah Velma Manning, Marianne Masick, John McBurney.
Judy McCaffrey, Carrie Brinkman McCann, Ian McFadyen, Rita Mary McGovern, Douglas and Joseph McGregor, Tommy McHughes, Thelma McLean, John McLean, David McNally, Peg Meisenheimer, Robert Bob Meisenheimer, Linda Meredith, Ron Messmer, Irene Messmer, Susan Mettler, Susan J. Metzger, Dawn Marie Meyer, Donna Meyer, Joe Mayer, Norbert and Mary Jane Meyer, Daniel Nicholson, Dolly Nicholson, Don and Dolly Nicholson, Don and Shirley Miller, Donnie Miller, John L. Miller, Rebecca Becky Miller, Alice Mayan, Elizabeth Mitchell, Sheila Mitchell, Irene Moffat, Shirley Moffat, Bob Monat, Bernice Moore, Lester Morgan, Luella Morgan, Jane A. Morris, Penny Morris, Paul J. Mortensen,
Renee M. Mortensen, Fern and Charlie Mulger, Sam and Jesse Morich, Anthony Munari, Raymond Munson, Vivian Munson, Elsie and Bill Murphy, Sharon C. Murphy, Margaret Murray, Anna Nachatello, Walter O. Nelson, John Newman, Dave and Lydia Neibauer, Jim Neibauer, Larry Nitz, Catherine Ann Juris Navasio, Audrey Nunley, Roy Nunley, the Nunley family, Shirley Darlene Oakes, Barbara Odakoven, Sandra Sue Osborne, Joanne Pace, Juanita Palmer, Brielle Papavero, Gary Parker, Jack Parks, Ed Parks, Hal Perot, Margot and George Peabody, Adelia Dia Pearl, Donna Pearl, Julia Pennington, Ellis Connect Perryman, Pat Peters, Valerie Peters, Axel Glenn Peterson, Deanna Karen Peterson, Mabel L.M. Peterson.
Mary and Chet Peterson, Gladys Phelps, Sandy Phillips, Nancy Parami, Max Poitra, Rex Poitra, Chuck and Jackie Primesberger, Mark Priest, Martha Prill, Ron and Dorothy Prindle, Harold Propp, Thomas Pileman, Ruby Keyrose, Tony Keyrose, Betty Ronig, Philip Redman, Jack Reberg, Pat Reberg, Eugene Reichert, Arlene Reinbolt, Carol Reinbolt, Steve Reinbolt, Elaine D. Rice, Mr. Richmond, Edgar Ritz, Ted and Layla Ritz, Bill Rote, Donald Rote, Earl Rote, Francis Roberts, Randy Roberts, Victor Roberts, George Robson, Barbara Rogers, George Rogers, Jane Rogers, Paul Roller, Pat Rolwitz, Robert Rom, Larry D. Rongholt,
Lester Rongholt, Jesse Roods, Eileen Royer, Glenda Royer, Daniel G. Ruff, Dorothy Roop, Tom Ruskowich, Shirley Jean Ryan, Andy Salava, Ronald J. Scariano, Leo and Sharon Schaff, Kenneth and Millie Scharf, Larry Scharf, Eleanor Scharsh, Wayne Scharsh, Delilah Sheff, Ronald Sherry, Leonard Schladweiler, Lori Van Sky Schmidt, Donald Schultz, Ann Schultz, Jean Schuster, Jane M. Schwartz, Darren Schwenneker, Glenn and Lena Sheets, Laurel Shook, Vivian Silva, Houston B. Smith, Richard H. Smith, Robert A. Smith, Beth Spear, Darlene Spieler, Dale Stahl, Emily Stansell, Stan Stansell, Dorothy Stauffer, James Stauffer, Sandra Stauffer, Jim Stockfish, Jana Stockton.
Lucille Stockton, Dan Stockton Sr., Alan W. Strange, Lydia Stratford, Charles Chuck Stratford, Richard Lauren Stratford, Richard L. Stratford Sr., Dee and Gil Stratton, Gary Strong, Joshua Strong, Nathan Strong, Jerry and Colleen Swanson, Connie Lynn Taylor, Ron Tinney, Tom and Betty Tennyson, Richard Thomas, Dale Thompson, Lauren Thompson, Marvin Thompson, Robert Bob Thompson, William Bill Timberman, Gordon Wayne Torno, Michael Travis, Kathy Jo, Jody Treble, Connie Treble, Merlin Treble, Sharon Treble, Lori Trimbo, Thomas Trimbo, Kay Turner, Alicia Tuss, George and Virginia Yulshak, Sue Van Luveni, Phyllis Vanoy, Drew Versland, Eric Versland, Connie Drain Wagoner, Bruce Wagoner, Leo Wagoner, Teresa Waite,
Cheryl Wallace, Mark Wallace, Monty Wallace, Richard E. Wallace, Ray and Rose Walsh, Mackenzie Walters, Carolyn Lynn Warner Gross, Shirley Warren, Otto K. Weaver, Adeline Wegner, Mr. and Mrs. Rudolph Wegner, Ray and Sally Weimeyer, Polly Wells, Ralph Wells Sr., Camby Weiger, Erwin Weiger, Tim Wilkins, Kay Will, Kenneth Williams, Winifred Williams, Linda Wilmot, Kirk Weisergoff, Albert and Hazel Wolschlagel, Tsuneo Yamaguchi, Phil Yanchison, Ruth Yost, Patricia Young, Theodore R. Young Jr., Theodore Young Jr., Louis M. and Jock Jovich, Vi Zakamir, Chuck Zitur, Jerry and Eileen Zitur, Thomas A. Zoller, Thomas H. Zoller, Alex Zygmunt, Joe and Zoni Zygmunt, Lou and Mike Zygmunt.
Let's now take a moment of silence to remember those named aloud and those remembered in our hearts. At this time, I would like to introduce RiverStone Health chaplains Terry Steinbrink and Eric Johnson, and other hospice staff and volunteers who are outside and will lead in a candlelight celebration of our loved ones. This year, in honor of Veterans Day weekend, we are also joined by the family of World War II U.S. Army veteran Don Mason, who is in our care until November 2021. Don's family will have the honor of lighting the tree this evening. We invite you to light a candle at home and join us in this celebration.
This is a special tree, not just because of the holidays, but because this tree represents hope, comfort, resilience, and light. We come together to honor and celebrate the memories of our loved ones. May this ceremony be a blessing to all. Light is one of the most universal, fundamental, and meaningful symbols found in cultures and religions throughout the world. Whatever someone's spiritual, religious, or cultural beliefs, there tends to be a unified understanding that light is a sign of hope and promise. No matter how our world may seem, there is no darkness that can overtake the light. One little tiny speck of light will break through even the darkest of nights. The fact that light can overcome darkness is often portrayed as a way to give hope. This is both a physical and spiritual meaning. Just as the lighthouse guides lost sailors to safety, the light can bring us hope. May the lighting of this tree symbolize hope and bring light to the places where it is most needed. And now I'd like to introduce some very special people. First, one of our volunteers. Pete, do you want to step forward?
Yes.
This is Pete Tim, and he is one of our volunteers. He does pinnings for our veterans. So thank you, Pete, for your service.
It's my honor.
And then we had a very special patient. His name was Don Mason. And his family is here today. They're going to do the tree lighting, and his nephew Ralph is going to say a few words about Don.
This is so special, it's almost beyond words. To honor Don like you are all doing, this is it just more than warms our heart, and we just thank you so much. We know that, yes, he was a courageous soldier in World War II and received wounds even at that time. But the special people I feel right now are all of you, Terry, Pete, Kevin, Heidi, and all of you that have worked so much to honor and to support all of the veterans and all of those that you help. RiverStone Hospice, I can't say enough words for you. We thank you so much. Yes, we really had great respect for Uncle Don, for all he went through. But the family that he has joined is all of you, and he is looking at us right now. And thank you, Terry. And I just can't say enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph.
You're welcome.
And now Dawn's family will light the tree. And now I'd like to introduce Eric, who is our other chaplain, and he will do our prayer.
Do not despair. Though you hear the cries of suffering and sadness around you, though you walk through the valley of death with fear in your heart, do not despair. Do not despair. If the one you love has been taken from you, if the divine flower of life has been extinguished, do not despair. In the darkest hour, in the moment of empty desolation, there shines a light. You may not see it, but it is there. It is a light of the one that made you, the one that made your beloved, and the one that shaped the world. In the world of shadows, there is a seed of light. So when you step into the gloom, do not be afraid. A hand will guide you. It is my hand, and also the hand of another. It is the hand of your angel. It is the hand of the one that made us, bringing us together in this moment, now and forever. More glorious than hope, more radiant than joy, we are loved. We are at one with the one. We will walk from the darkness together into the light, knowing that darkness and light are within us and around us. We are beings from a world of summer and winter, day and night. Put aside fear and sadness, so that way we may be healed by the Spirit of all things, now and forever.
Thank you all for sharing this special evening with RiverStone Health Hospice. The tree will remain lit until January 1st.